more done.
What stands out to me, this is a high character group. You look at their GPAs, you can tell that their future is important to them, even outside of football, and that's what we're looking for, and that's the way we're building this thing. So very excited about this class, and like I said, there could be a few more before it's all said and done. Really big. We signed 4, and really felt like we needed to. Like we said, we wanted to get a little longer, and we did that. Like I said, Colby Hudson's very unique from the standpoint that he can play quarterback too. So, you could see him, possibly even take some snaps there at times, whether it's wildcat or just package type deal. But, all 4 of those guys are playmakers. They're very good with the ball in their hands, and like I said, we're excited. And I know Bo Nix is excited that we got all 4 of them too. It's real, and it's not just recruits, it's players, current players all around the country. Everything is more magnified than it ever has been. We choose to build this thing with talent, with character, and then, like I said, I think it's important that when you recruit, you're recruiting families too, families that fit the philosophy and fit Auburn. And so, that's what we've done, and this year has been one of our best classes with all that, and I think that'll help in the future too. And like I said, this day in college football, it's different. It's the college football day of the portal, where there's a lot of changes and all that. And so we're trying to, really be specific on what we're looking for as a recruit. I mean, there's other guys that we could have had that probably could have helped the recruiting rankings and all that, but we're very specific, and we're very blessed to get this type of a class, not just from a talent standpoint, but from a character standpoint. We felt like we had to have a few guys that we felt were ready to play, and that's why we signed the 2 junior college guys when we could also take another grad transfer possibly too if an opportunity presented itself. And then we wanted some guys that could build this thing, and we have the freshmen. We think all 3 are excellent players, and 2 of them are going to get here early, which I think is important, and just kind of building that offensive line depth for the future. You can't have enough depth at the running back position in our league, and you've seen that throughout the years, but we're building this thing the right way. Coach Cadillac is doing a real good job. A lot of those running backs are pretty versatile too. So, there could be times you could see 2 running backs on the field at the same time.
All right.
And we are off and running here. Glad you're here for the second hour. We're 2 hours away from one of seemingly everyone's favorite moment of the year, when Archbishop Marino will come for his Christmas message, and certainly we would like to talk to for you to talk to him. Somebody just made a great point, though. All these Mount Rushmores, when do we do the Mount Rushmore of Finebaum callers? Is that on the last day of the show? I don't know. Maybe too early for that yet. Lee is in Seattle. Hello, Lee. Nice of you to call.
It's nice to talk to you again. Wanted to wish you and your wife, family, and everybody there happy holidays.
Thank you so much.
I wanted to jump on the bandwagon of thanking you. I too am a retired civil servant, firefighter, who has also been on life support at one time in my life. And you have brought, you asked the other caller what, we see in the show, at least what I do, is just, it's a respite from the rest of the stuff going on out there. It's nice, for the most part, just to be able to listen to and talk about sports. You can get all the other garbage everywhere else. But, here it's kind of a really nice distraction to know that, it's about sports and shouldn't be about anything else. So
well, that's wonderful.
I do thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I also called last year and spoke with Monsignor.
Oh, I do remember that. Yes.
Yeah, I'm just, I'm just hoping for a better decade. I can't say a whole lot has changed as far as what I spoke to him about last year, but this particular decade didn't go very well, and so I'm really hoping that next year's decade does go better.
Well, listen,
And
Lee,
also,
I hate to hear that, but I also appreciate your optimism about the future. That's one thing about this time of the year. In the middle of March, it's hard to be upbeat and optimistic about everything, but I do find this time of the year it is a time of reflection a little bit, and I'm glad you feel that way.
I mean, I have to feel that way, or I don't know honestly where I'd be. I just wanted to also say something really quickly regarding Larry. When I went through my last of several surgeries, because I had started drinking and streaking really heavily. I had kind of a huge pity party for myself when I got hurt, and I realized I could no longer do my job, which I loved. And I had failed to tell the doctors that I had been drinking as much as I had, and went to go home, and I stopped breathing, and I went into arrest, and I was on life support in a coma for a week. And why I say this is, I hear with Larry kind of the ramblings of somebody who drinks too much, and it kind of worries me. And one of the first things I think you learn if you have really good friends is don't drink and dial, because it's really not a good idea. But I really hope that Larry gets his stuff together and stops drinking so much, because it's apparent that he's pretty proud of it. But I just would hate for him to go through what I did. And so that's what I wanted to say to Larry and, to everybody. And I miss it, believe me. I miss drinking every day, but I don't miss the hangovers and everything that came with it. And I'm now 10 years sober, thank goodness. And like I said, look forward to the next.
Well, I'll tell you
decade.
what, Lee, I am among the blessed ones who have never had to wean myself off of something, but I can assure you I've seen it very firsthand with family members, with relatives and friends, and I'm really proud that you were able to say what you just got through saying. That's an accomplishment, and be well.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you very
Bye.
much. Iman is up next. Good afternoon, Iman.
Good afternoon, Paul. What a great call.
Well, it was.
And I'm like you. For whatever reason, the time that you and I grew up, and that Zippo lighter represents that.
Yeah,
because
it does.
it was mine. It was everything changed, and it's amazing that myself, like you, I was able to grow up during all of these times and not have some of those issues. And I'm not sure why I didn't, other than I was looking for something bigger, I guess. Not to diminish anybody else's thoughts or visions, but there were so many things that I ran into that wasn't it. And I kind of identified that, and I kept moving past it. Paul, so much goodwill in the air, this time of year, every year. And I got this burden on my heart, and I need to share it. And if there's anything we could do to take back the heavy burden that lays on the backs of the Bama fans during these holidays, and the entire team and staff and all the fans, but especially the Bama callers that call in this program, I know it's going to be hard, it's going to be heavy, it's going to be dark, it's going to be dreary. But little brother's got his eye looking out for you. And there ain't nothing we can't take it away. We all got to live with the results. And if you're battered and bruised and tattered and torn, it's just too damn bad. War damn Eagle. Paul, Merry Christmas, and you have a great weekend.
Greg is up next. Hello, Greg.
Hey, Paul. Merry Christmas to you and the staff. I've heard people calling and talking about Larry and Legend and some others, and for every Bama fan that calls you and is full of hyperbole, there are those who are a little more rational and get through the season no matter what happens. And those calls that they've made over the course of your radio show and then now this show that have built them up also come at a cost, because when everything you say is based on hyperbole or bravado and it falls apart at some point, as it always, as it does throughout time, you have nothing to stand on. And so the callers that people are used to hearing don't call anymore. They call very sparingly, and when they do, it's from a position of perceived hurt or offense that you have caused them. And I think that those people are going by the wayside. And your show now has evolved and is built on other callers that don't just encompass Alabama, but it's a nationwide show, and you've got callers from every state, Paul. And so I think those who have built their so-called reputations on calling your radio show in Birmingham feel outcast and probably a little lonelier at this time of year. Would you agree with that?
Listen, I don't know. And the one thing that I am proud of in terms of what we had was it was very special. And it was different, but people have only one person to blame, Greg, and that's me. I made a decision that was not easy, but I felt like it was in the best interest of my own career and my family and really the vision I always had for that program. That program changed the moment that it expanded beyond that local base. And you may not have remember some of it, and maybe you've clearly heard about it, but once we got outside of the state, it became a different show. And I get it, but I think when you consider that this is now 10 years in the making, we're pretty close. We're not that far from where we started. I mean, it's been a balancing act trying to please an audience and also please our bosses.
Well, I can only speak for myself. I am just happy and privileged every time I get to have a conversation with you. And that's not, based on some form of idol worship or, being a sycophant. It's that we get to have a conversation, and we've got to spend time together, as you shared with people before, outside of the show.
Now, for those who don't know, a couple of months ago I was in Alabama, and Greg picked me up at the airport, and we had an incredible afternoon and evening together that I cherish. And I was fascinated by some of the things you told me about your own life and your own career and your own experiences. And it was, I wish those opportunities came around more often.
Well, when I had seen you in Huntsville prior to that, I was sitting there thinking, I said, everybody thinks this guy lives a real lavish life that he's catered to, and you're not. You were there and you had a driver at the Huntsville Museum of Art, when you went to give a talk about SEC football. And I had asked you, how you got here, and you said some guy picked me up. And
yeah, well, the head of the museum picked me up.
Right. So I just said, I said, well, why couldn't I do that? And you can have a conversation with someone that you've talked to before and have met before, and so it worked out. But what I like about the show is that there are divergent callers, and the show that started in the 80s wasn't the same show that ventured into 2000. And when you took your show into syndication, I'm sure it changed somewhat. And so I don't, I met Larry and some of the other callers, and I appreciate what they brought at that point in time. But those times have moved on, and they have a choice to be a part of the show as it is or not to be. And so, me, Paul, I have called you the day after Clemson slaughtered Alabama, just like I called you the day after Alabama beat Clemson. Games don't move me in that direction, and that doesn't move the needle on radio, but I maintain my integrity every day I call, and so I appreciate the opportunity that you give to us. And this show, unfortunately, won't last forever because time, moves on for all of us. But people should accept it for what it is and embrace it, just like those callers who call in and have the show to hang on to when they're dealing with some physical or emotional issues that we don't all have to deal with on a regular basis because, fortune is fleeting. And for every day that we have that we're blessed and thankful, there are days where, we have to really struggle. And everybody's faced their own struggles through time. When I was 22, I was on the sail of a submarine. We were going through a hurricane, and I got washed overboard. And if it wasn't for a safety harness, I'd have been lost forever. Before I ever had children or got married or got to see my parents again. And your life passes before you in those kind of moments. And I was telling a story at church about that, and this guy said, well, what were you thinking about? I said, I was just praying to God to let me see another day. So at the end of the night, that's what I pray with my wife, that God gives us another day, because that's all we have in front of us. So I appreciate you as a friend first and foremost, and then the show. And so people can call it what they want, but it is a valuable piece of entertainment and education that I, for one, am grateful for. So I hope that you take this show as far as it will go, as long as you want to, and I will always support you in whatever endeavor you choose, as a friend first and as a listener second, Paul.
Greg, many thanks. For a Merry Christmas to you and Mona, and we will be right back. Much more to come, including Andy Staples.
I've been learning new things every day. I've been, not rushing it, just taking my time, adjusting to things, and life has been good. I'm living my dreams. I'm happy every day.
Well, you should be, and you have one of the most unique and respected head coaches in the industry. What's it like to play for Coach Tomlin?
Oh man, outstanding coach. He, I can tell that he truly cares about how I developed as me being a rookie right now, on and off the field. Gives great tips. A great coach. He has a different way of understanding players and their personalities, and where they came from. So, great coach.
And that is one of the storied franchises in NFL history. So I know it has to be a very interesting experience. I also know that when you play on a team like the Steelers or any other NFL team, you're so consumed with what you're doing, preparing for the next game. But I know you, and I have a feeling you've kept up with the Wildcats pretty closely.
And that's correct. I'm ride or die by my Wildcat.
As you look down the final 2 or 3 weeks of the season, what's on your mind? I mean, how do you see it ending?
I don't want to predict the future or nothing, but I'm always going to ride.
You feel pretty good about it?
I always ride for my team. So we're looking to finish these last 2 games out with a win, and we're going to see what presents itself after that.
And when the season finally ends, and I know you're not in a hurry to see it end, what will you do?
I'll either be going to the Super Bowl with my team, or I'll be, or I'll be getting ready for the next season in preparation.
So, in other words, the NFL really never ends, does it?
It really never ends. But this is what I wanted since I was a little boy. I wanted this. I wanted to be able to set an example for kids, be able to live my dream on national TV. So it never ends. This is my life. I'm happy.
What's it like, though, Benny, and I apologize for keeping you so long, but when you see young kids who want to talk to you, I mean, it's one thing to be a college football player, and you were as big a star as you could be at Kentucky, but now you're an NFL player. You're playing for an iconic franchise. That has to make you feel good when little kids stop you and either want your autograph, your picture, or ask you how they can get where you are.
Most definitely. I take it as a blessing. I take it as a blessing. I'm able to help kids with the mistakes that I made. I'm able to, lead them in the right way.
Welcome back. We are here and certainly looking forward to our next guest, one of the premier sports observers in college football in the country, Andy Staples, joining us here at the Christmas season. And always good to have you on, Andy. Andy, you're known for so many things, but you're also known for your culinary prowess. So what's your go-to on Christmas Day?
Well, I make a leg of lamb where I take a knife, make some slits in the lamb, you cut up some garlic, you stuff the garlic in there, and you slather it up with oil, and then salt, pepper, rosemary, and you throw it on the grill. and it is fantastic. And I also make my grandmother's chocolate chip cookies, which are the best on earth.
Yeah, we obsess over Thanksgiving and so many other holidays, but Christmas is a little bit open, isn't it, in terms of what people eat?
You can do anything. We've done the Italian dinner. We've done the traditional turkey. We've done ham. It is open, and I like that. It's not tied down to one, fairly tasteless bird. You've got a lot going on there.
Talking to Andy Staples, the Andy Staples Show podcast. By the way, I was speaking of podcasts. I was really struck this week. We had Spurrier on, and he tried to promote his podcast about 17 times.
Well, I mean, listen, he's got a little NASCAR driver in him. He's got a restaurant too. I don't know if you know about that. He probably slipped that in 20 times. It's under construction, so when that sucker opens, he's going to be plugging it on your show.
What's the food look like? Just normal.
American fare. I don't know. He held a draft to see what chef he would work with, so I don't even know if he's picked the chef yet. But
Can you imagine Spurrier walking in and giving orders?
I can. I've seen it before, Paul. I've seen it in action. And the chef will be his quarterback, so that will be the person that he drives the most crazy. Now, the kitchen staff, like the offensive line, will love Steve Spurrier because, he's not going to yell at you. He's going to yell at the quarterbacks and the receivers. That's who he's going to be on constantly. So, yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see him screaming at somebody like Gordon Ramsay about risotto. Get that. I need James Bates on here to do the Spurrier. My Spurrier's terrible.
No, it's Urban has a restaurant. Spurrier has a restaurant. Saban has a car dealership. I mean, what's next?
Will Muschamp with a restaurant?
Okay, let me ask you this. If Sam Pittman went into business, what kind of business would he operate?
Construction. I know this because if you listen to the Andy Staples Show on Monday, there's my plug. I'm not going to hit it as many times as Spurrier did, but a really good interview with Sam Pittman, and he put himself through college roofing. And his dad taught him to hang drywall, and he can do everything. And that caused him to get hit up by some of his friends. One of his friends in particular, a man named Rex Ryan, who I'm sure everybody knows, decided to design this monster fort for his kids when he worked for the Baltimore Ravens. But he's not very handy. So he called Sam Pittman and said, hey, come on down. We'll go to an Orioles game. We'll do all this. And oh, by the way, can you build this fort for my kids? Which was bigger than Sam Pittman's house at the time.
Okay, so we have Sam Pittman at Arkansas, Eli Drinkwitz at Missouri, Kiffin at Ole Miss. I know which one you're most excited about, but what about these hires in the SEC so far?
I'm interested in, Pittman, I think Arkansas may have lucked into the best possible choice in a situation where I think probably some of their first choices were saying, you know what, I don't know if I want to get into this situation. I think Pittman's going to wind up being kind of a steadying force for them, and they're going to have a good offensive line, which is a great place to start. I don't know what happens next, but one thing I was struck by talking to him was he's not married to a certain style of offense, and certainly not married to what he calls bully ball, which is what they played when he was there with Brett Bielema. He wants to open things up and be a little more forward-thinking on offense. Eli Drinkwitz, we know, is going to be forward-thinking on offense. I think Eli inherits probably the best situation. That team defensively was very good this year. When Kelly Bryant got hurt, the offense kind of stalled a little bit. But I do feel like they have a pretty good base there, and they're in the East, so it's a little bit easier. So I think you're going to see some improvement from them, though I do think you probably see the most improvement from Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin because he can get that offense going. This is their second full year with a full complement of scholarship, so I think that'll help them depth-wise on the defense. So I think you're going to see improvement from all three of those teams. I just think Ole Miss probably has the most room for improvement right there.
Let's get to the games that really do matter this year. Of course, LSU taking on Oklahoma. Oklahoma's lost a couple of key players due to suspension. We think Allaire will be out. Nobody has confirmed it. Coach O is still working on that to disseminate to the media, but we're a week and a day away from that game.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma probably suffered the worst loss if you're trying to figure out who's in worse shape after this news. They lose their best pass rusher. They also lose some depth at running back. If something were to happen to Kennedy Brooks, then probably Jalen Hurts is your running game. And it's great when Jalen Hurts can play off of Kennedy Brooks because that makes it very hard to figure out who has the ball. And also they can throw it to CeeDee Lamb and some of those really good receivers. But if they're limited at the running back position, it's going to limit what Jalen Hurts can do too. I think LSU was already probably going to win this game, but I think now this gives them probably a lot better chance to win it. The Edwards-Helaire thing, the one thing I would worry about is when you lose a veteran back like that, it hurts in pass protection. But again, with Oklahoma losing its best pass rusher, that's not as big of a deal. And also, I think we've seen that Joe Burrow kind of has eyes in the back of his head. He seems to really have a knack for sensing pressure and getting away.
Talking to Andy Staples about the upcoming bowl season, the other game that day, that night, I should say, Clemson and Ohio State. Seems like most of the pundits have gone with Clemson. What about you?
I have no idea. I'll be honest with you, Paul. It's a coin flip to me because I don't know where Clemson is relative to Ohio State and LSU and Oklahoma because Clemson's schedule just didn't really cooperate. Listen, they tried. They scheduled Texas A&M. Texas A&M didn't wind up being all that good. The rest of the ACC didn't hold up its end of the bargain, so we've not really seen Clemson get challenged. We don't know what they'll look like against those teams. My guess is they'll look very good. And I was thinking about this in terms of the position groups that Ohio State players have seen. Like Ohio State's defensive backs have not played receivers like this. They played some good ones against Michigan, but nothing like T. Higgins and Justin Ross. They haven't played a quarterback like this. So there's a chance Clemson's the best of this bunch, that they're better than all of them. We just don't know that yet. And that's the problem. Ohio State looks very complete. They got a great quarterback, great running backs, deep receiving core, maybe the best pass rusher in the country, great secondary. So that's the part I can't figure out is how good is Clemson? Because until we know how good they are, it's really hard to judge everybody else.
Andy, a couple of other bowl games are of interest. A lot of bowl games are of interest, but I'm really intrigued by your thoughts on Alabama coming off of a pretty bad end of the season. Even by Alabama standards, by everyone else's standards, pretty good. The Michigan matchup, figure that one out for us.
Yeah, it's weird. I kind of want to know who's going to play and what it's going to look like. But I do get the sense with Alabama, especially defensively, this is a chance for those guys to really establish themselves in their roles. They've been so young in defense all year. They've kind of taken their lumps. My feeling is they're going to be better next year. Maybe we see that now. I think back to 2010. That was they lost 3 games. They lost to South Carolina, Les Miles ate grass, and they lost to LSU, and then they had the comeback that they lost. And they just annihilated a very good Michigan State team that had Kirk Cousins and had gone 11-1. I could see something like that happening if Alabama guys are really locked in. And, historically we've seen, that Sugar Bowl against Utah, the game against Oklahoma in the Sugar Bowl, games where they did not get up for that sort of thing after not making what they wanted to make. But this team, as young as it is, Tua's not able to play. Mac Jones wants to make his mark. I kind of think they're going to be engaged for this one. And I don't know if that's a good thing for Michigan. Yeah,
and if Michigan loses, the Michigan fans just say, hey, listen, we're not as good as them. Congratulations. Let's go get our participation trophy.
You and Harbaugh, man, you're just trying to twist the knife on Harbaugh. Listen, I don't know where Michigan fans are at on this. I wrote this after the Ohio State game because I do wonder, are they frustrated that they're not in that echelon? Because they aren't. And I think most Michigan fans would admit that. Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, LSU, Georgia, Oklahoma, those teams are on a different level than Michigan. They recruit at a different level, and it's really up to Michigan to decide, do you want to be there? Because I'm not sure Ohio State and Michigan are really crossing each other much for recruits. I think Ohio State's seeing more of Clemson and more of Georgia and more of Alabama when they're trying to recruit guys, and that's a problem for Michigan. You're not going to beat them unless every once in a while you beat them for a recruit.
What about Georgia? A couple of seconds left. I mean, do you feel like, kind of a weird ending to the year? Does the Sugar Bowl matter?
It's going to matter for everybody, and I want to know what happens with Jake Fromm. What does he do? Because if I'm Jake Fromm and the offense is going to be exactly the same next year, I look at the quarterbacks in the NFL draft and say, you know what? Beyond Joe Burrow, beyond Justin Herbert, I don't know who everybody's taking, so I'm going to go wow them on the board. But if they come to me and say, listen, we're going to do something like LSU did and build an offense around you that takes advantage of the things you do well, I'm going to say, hey, I'm coming back. because I'm going to be a first-round pick, high first-round pick next year. So that's what I want to find out. What are they going to do with their offense? I'm less interested in the Sugar Bowl than what happens off the field.
Thank you very much, Andy. Merry Christmas. Can't wait to get a report on your lunch.
Merry Christmas, Paul.
Thank you. Meanwhile, there's a bowl game going on. Buffalo over Charlotte, 24-6 in the Makers Wanted Bahama Bowl. We'll take a short break. Back with much more. So, best players never won the Heisman.
This decade.
Yeah.
I
want to mention this. That we're getting a lot of tweets from people saying, how could you leave Bo Jackson off the Auburn team? We are barely smart enough to know that Bo Jackson deserves it. We're talking about the last decade, please, people.
Yeah.
Also, a decade, just so people didn't know.
Let's bring this down for a second, really break down the decade thing, Paul.
Quick lesson here. A decade starts
when does a decade really end, though?
With the year that ends with 9. That's at the end of the decade.
Right.
But how many years is that? That's
10.
0. Yeah, okay.
10.
So I guess
0,
the question
1, 2, 3. I got it.
Yep.
The question is,
I
did
didn't
anybody
measure
celebrate the new Y2K on December 31st, 2000?
No. By the way, 20 years ago, we were just
talking about that in the
We
control
were. There was a lot of people who don't remember
My
it.
wife's grandmother went out and bought like 500 cans of tomato rice soup.
My mom went out and bought a couple gallons of water and egg noodles. That was going to hold us over for a long time.
We had to stay away from the TVs in my house just in case they exploded.
Oh, Y2K was a big thing.
That was a really big deal.
Paul, what did you do? Did you?
I just watched TV all night, just watching the New
waiting
Year
to see if it'd be on
from Beijing and all parts west.
That might have been one of the biggest hoaxes that, for some reason, we just believed right?
According to some people, there's been a bigger hoax lately.
That's right. But the most anticlimactic buildup, for almost 2 years, it was
a big deal.
Hey, by the way, we're not sure if computers, power grids, planes are going to drop out of the air,
right.
Phones aren't going to work.
Now we're just looking to see if Nick Saban's
going to
win another national title,
if we
right?
lose Wi-Fi for like 20 seconds.
Oh, truth.
It's tough.
It's true. But that could, it's funny because something like that could never happen now.
Yeah, there's too much internet to believe something that false, right?
You'd think.
You hope so. Maybe.
Paul, is that true? Is there enough internet to believe false claims?
There's a lot of false claims out there.
A lot of hoaxes.
A lot of setups. Welcome back. We are glad you are here, and let's check in with Ed in South Carolina. Hello, Ed.
Hey, Paul, how you doing, man? It's a beautiful day in Little River.
Glad to hear.
My golf game sucked today. That's all right, though. That's life,
December golf games are probably never going to be great unless you live in Palm Beach.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Hey, I want to make a statement and hope I'm doing this the right way, okay? I'm 76 years old, okay? And I have never seen a show like yours. Not whole day, but can't wait till 3 o'clock in the afternoon to watch your show.
Well, thank you.
You bring so much joy, or whatever the right words are, to me personally. I think a lot of people feel this way too, And I just want to tell you how much we appreciate what you do.
Well, I can't tell you how much that means to everyone that's here because. Listen, some days, and I think the real reality show would be behind the scenes on this show, what all of us talk about when the lights and cameras aren't on, and I think sometimes you just don't think about some of the things that you've said. We're dealing with management and middle-level management and people that I'm sure have our best interests at heart.
Yeah.
But sometimes you don't really get that feeling. But when you hear from callers like you and others, it makes us want to fight another day with those people I just mentioned.
Well, good. Don't give up. And someday, boy, we disagree with you a lot. Not a lot, but we disagree sometimes. But that's good. That's what.
Well, I think that's what's great, though. And I can't tell you how many times I've said something, and somebody like you will call in, and I'll go, you know what? Maybe I should rethink that.
No, don't rethink it. You have the best show on TV, and it gives us something to think about for tomorrow. What we're going to do tomorrow, And at 3 o'clock, it's Finebaum show. Okay?
Right.
I can do nothing till 7 o'clock. So, you know what I mean? And I just want you to know that how much many of us appreciate what you do.
Well, Ed, thank you for saying that. It was great to see you when we met in Columbia. I believe it was last year.
That wasn't me. I'm the different Ed.
Oh, you're the different Ed?
Yeah, I'm from Little
River. That Ed's from Lexington, South Carolina. You're right.
Yeah, I'm from Little River, yeah.
You're the one that gives me the golf report every day.
Right, is that? Yeah, that's it, yeah.
I mean, I can't believe I confused the two. I mean, there are more than 2 Eds in South Carolina.
Oh, they're probably, anyway.
Okay, let me ask you this, Ed. How often do you play golf?
Oh, 4 or 5 days a week.
Oh, my goodness. When I'm 76, I want to be playing golf 4 or 5 times a week. When I'm 66, I want to be playing golf 4 or 5 times a week.
Hey, have you ever heard of the Monday after the Masters down here?
I know that Darius Rucker has a big deal.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, sure.
Can Wingo have the show here every year and stuff?
Yeah, no, I've gotten to know Darius. Mark Hebiak and I came down to Columbia about a year and a half ago, maybe about a year ago, I should say. And we spent the day with him and had a great time.
Okay. Would you be interested in playing that some year if I could?
Oh, I'd love. Are you kidding?
It's in Myrtle Beach.
I would love to do that.
Well,
I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to make the celebrity list because I mean, after Golick and Wingo, there's quite a drop off to me.
Hey, you'll be number one. Trust me. At least with a bunch of people I know, you will be.
Well, I would have a blast. Listen, I'm not much of a golfer. I have not played much in recent years, but
that does not matter.
Yeah, well, that's the golf I like.
Okay.
I don't like playing with people that take golf too seriously.
Well, right. Well, I tell you, I'm going to start working on that and get you down.
Okay, well, that would be great, Ed. Thank you for the invitation.
All right, man. Thanks. I'll be in touch.
Okay, and then we'll finally get to meet. There's another Ed in South Carolina. I don't know how I got. I don't know why I thought there was more than one. There was only one Ed in South Carolina. The other guy's Mr. Ed. Of course, he's a talking horse.
Definitely saw a resilient team. Of course, I was probably in the same boat as many volunteer fans, and I know you, being from Tennessee, the first 2 games, not knowing what we were watching, and of course that happens in college football. Any given day, any team can beat anyone. But to see the team go through that adversity, learn from it, and then come back and finish out the season strong, I know it was very important for the seniors. It was, of course, important for Coach Pruitt. I think it showed the young guys in the program the type of talent that they have on the team and the type of team that they can be. They're able to fight back from being down 0-2 to 2 games they should have won and still have a 5-game win streak at the end of the year and still make it to a Florida Bowl game. Then they'll definitely be able to hit the ground running the next year and continue to stack and build on their performances. So I think they're headed in the right direction. It's literally you're sitting on the tarmac at the airport and you have ESPN pulled up on your phone and you're watching it, or you're in night meetings, you have your phone turned all the way down, you just have it sitting over there, just staying tuned in. You got the ESPN updates on your watch. So I've been tuned in to every single game since I left. I know when I was up in Pittsburgh and we had like 5 or 6 balls on the team, we were always talking about the game leading up to it. And then on Saturday, we were tuned in, whether it's at dinner on the big screen watching it or whether it's watching it on our phone. Of course, when you're at home, it's a little easier. You just get to go home and chill in your living room while you're off and watch it. But on the road, it can be kind of interesting. You lose phone reception in the air, so you're trying to log into the internet on the plane, trying to get the Wi-Fi codes to watch it. So we're definitely dedicated to watching the Volunteers every Saturday. I can promise you that. I also know Jarrett. I got a chance. He was a freshman when I was a senior, and I know the type of kid he is, and I think he showed that throughout the season. Bouncing back from maybe a tough outing to come out and perform well, bouncing back from injuries. He was out there playing, a week after surgery with a cast on his hand. So it shows his dedication to the sport. It shows his resiliency. It shows his toughness. And then it also shows how much he cares about his team and how much he cares about the University of Tennessee. He knows he was best option to win. So he's going to be sure he's prepared and ready to go on Saturdays, no matter what stands in his way. So it's been great to watch him succeed, watch him to continue to play at higher levels as the weeks have surpassed. And I'll be glad to spend some time with him. I haven't gotten a chance to check in with a lot of the guys just with how crazy this year has been. But when they get down to Jacksonville, I'll be excited to spend some time with them, hang out, and just talk ball, just talk life with them. And it'll be a great reunion. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I've been ecstatic to see how they finish the year and want them to go out with a bang here in Jacksonville.
Welcome back. We are here, and a reminder, about an hour from now, we'll join Archbishop Marino for the final hour, talking to him about his year, the meaning of Christmas, and your opportunity to speak with him as well. Let's check out Dave in Baton Rouge. Hello, Dave.
Paul, how are you today?
I am well. Thank you for the call.
Hey, Merry Christmas, and I hope y'all have a good time for Christmas when we get off this phone. Listen, I was going to call you and pop off about not worrying about Clyde Allaire not playing for the Tigers against Oklahoma. But when I got to looking at our depth chart, I didn't know that Tyrone Davis-Price, who is Clyde's backup, is out too with some kind of injury.
Oh, I didn't
Did you know that?
No, I did not.
You know, we got Chris Curry, and we've got John Emery. And John Emery is a 5-star freshman and was the number 1 running back in the cycle last year.
Oh, yeah.
And he's had a little problems picking up the passing game blocking. So they've kind of shoved him to the side, and I think you'll see a lot of Chris Curry. But we got plenty of talent at running back. We just don't have a lot of experience there right now.
No, listen, sometimes you don't know what you have until you're put in a position. I'm not overly concerned. I don't think he will play, but I think for this game, LSU is going to be okay. I would not say the same thing if it were one of the other two teams.
No, and I agree with you 100%. If we can get Clyde back, because Burrow's very comfortable with Clyde.
Right.
It's a protection blanket for him. They think a lot, but if we get to Clemson or to Ohio State without Clyde there picking up those linebackers, it could be a long night.
Yeah,
Paul.
no, I agree. But listen, I don't think there's much. Listen, I can't predict. Every injury is different, but he should have 3 weeks off. That would put him in a really good spot.
Another couple of things I'll run by you, and I'll let you go. I was excited that Joe Burrow graduated with his master's degree yesterday in liberal art. He crossed the stage at LSU and picked up his diploma. And the other thing I wanted to ask you, a couple of weeks ago, it's taken you a while to warm up to Coach O, but a couple of weeks ago you said that you thought Coach O was exclusive to LSU when you were asked if you would take him or Kirby or Dan Mullins out of Florida.
Right.
Is your opinion still the same?
No.
I thank you for that.
Yeah, listen, I think sometimes you have to take a second look at something, and I mean, I saw what he did at Ole Miss, and then I saw how he advanced and progressed, and I happened to be at one of his games at Southern Cal when he beat Stanford. And that removed much doubt, but I think you just have to sometimes see it to believe it, and I believe it now.
Well, and here's the thing I'm going to tell you right now, and Squirrel and Larry and all these long-time callers, and I haven't been on the show calling but about a year, but I've listened to it a long time, but all of these guys think that LSU is a flash in the pan.
No, they're wrong.
Our backup quarterback to Burrow broke all Brett Favre's records in the state of Mississippi. He's got a better cannon on him than Burrow. Now, I'm not going to come in here and lie to you and tell you that I think his decision-making will be as good as Burrow's, but I'm going to tell you what, from a pure passer, that kid out of Mississippi, Miles Brennan, is going to be good for us next year. And everybody's running around here worried about not getting a running back in this cycle. He's got 8 running backs, and out of the 8, 6 of those are freshmen. So if he redshirts a couple of those guys, no big deal. I hope he focuses the rest of his draft pick, or scholarships, I should say, on offensive and defensive linemen. I think we're hurting there more than we are at skill positions right now.
Appreciate the call very, very much.
Hey, y'all have a good Christmas, and I'll talk to you next week.
Great to have you on. Really do appreciate that. Daryl is up next. Hello, Daryl.
Hello, how are you?
We are well, thank you.
Hang on just a second here. You there?
We are.
Yeah, just calling to wish everybody Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Well, thank you.
I can't even talk right now. I just want to say, you got the Archbishop on. My brother met the Pope recently. He lives in Canada.
Oh, really?
He works for a bank up there. I think it's the second largest one in Canada. And he was chosen to represent the Human Trafficking Commission for them. And he got to meet the Pope.
Oh, my.
So I got a picture of that. But
that has always been one of my dreams, to meet the Holy See. And it just, I'm not saying, I don't know, I've never met any Pope, but this Pope to me just seems so personable. And from what I've been able to glean from my friend who will be on in about an hour, he can confirm that. Well, what an amazing experience. I mean, listen, I doesn't really, and I'm not Catholic, so it's not because of that, but I just think he's one of the most unique symbols in this world, and I'm such a big fan of his. Appreciate the call. We're an hour away from Archbishop Marino. We have plenty of time for you to get in at 855.